Well, hello, that's me again. Today is the September 8th, 2025. It is Monday. Happy Monday, everybody. And what you see in the beginning is basically just continuation of the same old. And we will talk about this specifically in a couple of minutes. But before we go any further, I want to point out that today is a very important date. And the date today is 70th anniversary, essentially 70-year-old birthday of Valery Vasilievich Gerasimov, the chief of the general staff of Russian army and armed forces, and obviously he is the commander of the unified grouping of the troops in the area of the special military operation. And if you take a look at Valery Gerasimov, and I want to stress something, which is obviously he is a man who even got the praise from such people like, for example, Zaluzhny, who calls him the greatest strategist so far. And Mr. Zaluzhny obviously is now the ambassador of Ukraine or whatever left of it in United Kingdom, and he used to be the commander of the armed forces of Ukraine, and he was known as a butcher. He killed very many his own soldiers on the obviously planning and command of the NATO, or especially American and British generals. They demonstrated to themselves that they are not simply in the same league, none of them, with Gerasimov. And when you take a look at Gerasimov, for example, Gerasimov's background, and this is in many respects typical background of people such as Gerasimov or those generals and admirals who actually populate basically the command structure of Russia's armed forces. You will not find this, for example, in the Western wiki or English Anglophone wiki, but I can give you a little bit of the rundown of what is this all about. And this is essentially why there is not a single NATO general officer who is even in the same league. And as you can see yourself, this is from Russian wiki, and this is correct because it's confirmed and corroborated by all other sources. He actually started his service, you might not know this, but he started his service when he was actually still in the high school. And Kazan Suvorov Military School, it's not your boarding school which Mr. Trump attended. No, it's at that time in Soviet Union, you go and enter there to finish your 9th and 10th grades. Don't forget, in Soviet Union, you studied 6 days a week. So, and basically what it is a real military school. You go there, you graduate, you study there, obviously all kinds of the same subject they study in school, but usually on a much higher level, like physics or chemistry and what have you. And then you do very many things which already prepare you for the real military academies. And guess what? You use weapons, you learn how to drive things like trucks and cars and things like that. You are provided with the basic introduction into the tactics of the subunits and things of this nature. And you train, you shoot, you go to the ranges, you do all kinds of stuff, so that's the start of the military training in high school. This is what Suvorov schools are. And then, of course, he entered, because when you graduate from the either Suvorov or Nakhimov naval military schools, your entrance into the higher officers' schools, which are academies essentially, is without entrance exams. You just go directly, you just choose depending on how you studied, you choose where you have to go. And Mr. Gerasimov enrolled into the famous Kazan Higher Tank Command School, which is the officers' school, officer academy, which is the armor academy. Obviously, they study all kinds of things, including combined arms warfare. After that, you graduated as the lieutenant, and you go and serve as the officer, starting from the platoon commander and up. He ended up being commanding, obviously, the type of the higher tactical formation such as brigade, then you go to military academy. Depending, it's called military academy, it's essentially war college. But again, it's not just war college. You don't go there for a few months, you go there for 2 years. And he went for the what is called military academy or war college of armed forces, and then he served, he took part in all kinds of situations, and then he ended up in the military academy of the general staff of the armed forces of Russian Federation. Through all of that, he commanded units and formations on 2 Chechen campaigns. He commanded in taking Crimea. He commanded in Syria. The guy actually won, well, he won all of it. And here is the issue which I want to stress again. People have to understand, apart from the fact that he has the graduate degree, as for example, I do also in engineering, because when you go to the tank school, for example, you dealing with the issues of the engineering related to all kinds of the systems such as tanks, armored personnel carriers, automobiles, all kinds of things like that. If that's engineering field, you get it. And you get undergraduate degree like I do, for example, in military sciences. Once you go to the war college or academy, and then you go into a special academy of the general staff, you have to understand that not only he has the graduate degree in engineering, he has the doctorate. He is Doctor of Military Sciences, not just, all kinds of things like, commanding something. You don't command something without a serious academic background. So, when you take a look at how much he studied in his life while serving and fighting wars, I can tell you, 2 years of the Suvorov School, which is the already first step, and well, guess what? 9 years of all those other academies and officer schools and academies. So 11 years of just pure academics, and this is serious academics. This is not some kind of garbage which you study or go through SAT. You will not believe what actually entrance exams to the officer schools are in Russia. And here we are. He is 70. And he is obviously the man of the incredible stature and the subject of hatred. And this hatred is based on the simple professional envy and jealousy, because there is not a single level military leader in NATO which can, well, he's the man in his own league. Simple as that. And I obviously congratulate Valery Gerasimov with his 70s, and what can I say? He is a military genius, and many people will have to understand that this is the guy who commanded all of it, and who defeated a unified West and essentially demilitarized it. And yes, he is probably the greatest living strategist today. And what can I say? Go, envy, go, cope. What can you will never reach, especially when you take a look what is being taught and how it is being taught. For example, I can say for obviously Anglophone countries, but yeah, I pretty much have an idea what is going on. You're gonna end up with this, and Maria Zakharova essentially oh my gosh, it just here it is. Maria Zakharova spoke today about European Union big foreign relations honcha Kaja Kallas. And yeah, Kaja Kallas is imbecile, and but if you take a look, this pretty much spreads across all military political elites in the combined West today. And so Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova has mocked the bloc's top diplomat for stereotyping Russians and Chinese. Remarks by EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas stereotyping Russians and Chinese expose her as critically uneducated. This is not a bug, this is the feature. All of them people who come out through all those universities on all those degree mills in the West are critically uneducated. Basically combined West military political top is critically uneducated. And so she, Kallas delivers some kind of the absolute people call it brain fart, I call it brain diarrhea. And so she said, Chinese are very good at technology, but they are not that good at social sciences. Carla said, the Russians are not good at technology at all, but super good in social sciences. So yeah, I mean, she's an imbecile. She graduated the University of Tartu, then some business school. Yeah, it's all this, militant humanities dumbed down bunch, which actually command not only European, in the United States it's absolutely the same. And just to demonstrate to you, before we go into the situation on the lines, on the front lines, here is the oh good lord, it's just unbelievable. Here's Mr. Kuleba. Kuleba was known actually for his role as the Minister of the Foreign Affairs in Ukraine. The guy, guess where he is now? He is in a Balfour Institute of whatever the name of this, some kind pseudo-academic BS in Harvard, Balfour School of whatever, International Relations, and as you might understand, he is also critically uneducated, as most people in those so-called, think tanks and schools, who teach all kinds of the garbage there. So he's teaching there now. So then you shouldn't be surprised why United States fails pretty much across the whole spectrum of the activities related to the applied geopolitics. But he says that, Kuleba confessed to escaping. Actually, he fled from Ukraine. He said, I never thought that I would have to flee my country like a thief at night. Well, you are mostly thieves there in your country in terms of the, how to say it, the pretty much political so-called elite in Ukraine are basically robber barons and thieves. And so the former minister stressed that the decree of Vladimir Zelensky is not related to restrictions on the departure of men subject to conscription, since ex-diplomats are not required to serve in the army. He added that in his opinion, Zelensky and his entourage do not want former diplomats to travel abroad and express positions that may diverge from government's line. Sure, that might be the case, and what can I say? It's basically normal state of the Ukrainian government, so to speak, of this virtual country, so if you wish to consider it this way. And that brings us to, it tells you pretty much everything you need to know about what is going on there, and you have to go and take a look, for example, at the situation which is developing on the front lines and why there is so much now, lament and whining in the media. For example, if you go for 3 days ago to our good friend Marat Khairulin and Mr. Popov, we can see immediately that like a very active front line, you see, and it's happening along all of the front line, all lengths of the front line. And here, for example, when I spoke a few days back, here's the Konstantinovka. This is Konstantinovka 3 days ago, and you can see yourself, if you go back to my previous video, I was stressing constantly that Russia is not going to move into Konstantinovka until this, basically the appendicitis will be cut, from the Russians' flank. And as you can see yourself at the Belaya Gora, yeah, Russians are mopping up this. You can see yourself it is circled in the red circle. And after that, it is Konstantinovka, which is now constantly under what is called fire impact. Well, people say it's barrage sometimes, whatever. It is being actually, how to say it, it's being burned we are talking about, obviously, the objects which are basically house all kinds of the units or formations of the armed forces of Ukraine and whatever is left there. So, meanwhile, in Kupiansk, as you can see yourself, Russians are in Kupiansk, okay? This is yesterday's map, and pretty much, another encirclement, another cauldron is forming, and that's what Russians were doing under the leadership of Mr. Gerasimov. As you can see yourself, all kinds of things are being blown to the smithereens, and these are military objects. So I wrote about this situation with the government building in Kiev, which allegedly Russians attack, but if you take a look attentively at it, it has nothing to do with Russians attacking, which Russians deny completely, so we don't attack that. And we didn't. And it most likely was one of the air defense missiles, which is now a tradition, which hit it. And of course, yeah, those air defense missiles, they're not really good. And all in all, when you look attentively at the whole situation developing on the front line and how Russians moving ahead with everything, so yeah, it's Mr. Gerasimov and his general staff, of course, including those famous and critical, there are many critical sectors and departments there, but of course operational planning, main chief directorate or operations is critical, and Valery Gerasimov knows all of it. He runs it, obviously, with the help of some outstanding officer corps, and what can I say? I mean, that's his anniversary. He meeting today with the very significant military successes, and as the result, so we know that Trump is not very well informed, let's put it this way, about the situation in war. And so after all this hysteria by all kinds of the Ukrainian leaders and all kinds of the neocons and war chicken hawks, primarily from Pentagon and CIA, what have you, so Trump suddenly comes out yesterday, I believe, and he says that, yeah, you know what, Trump says he's ready to implement second phase of sanctions against Russia. So, and yeah, he talks about it non-stop, and President Donald Trump told reporters on Sunday he's ready to move to second phase, whatever that phase is, of sanctions against Russia following its airstrike assault on Ukraine on Sunday. And it was a large assault, whatever you call it, but it was combined strike, and it will continue. And I already stated, I am having blister at my tongue, repeating this, that Russia produces and can actually employ per day 600 geraniums alone. Those geraniums UAVs. Obviously, Russia produces missiles, all kinds of other means, and all kinds of other UAVs. So, yeah. And Trump initially gave Russia a 50-day ultimatum. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, he gives ultimatum to everybody, and it's ridiculous. In July, yeah, today is actually September, and what's the deal with this 50-day ultimatum? Telling the Kremlin to end its war in Ukraine, or it would get hit with more sanctions and economic repercussions from the United States. So, yeah, sure. And as the result, even the Neocon Central Newsweek has to, they admit, yeah, Russia responds to Trump's sanctions threat. Russia brushed off US President Donald Trump's latest comments about the further sanctions over the war in Ukraine, saying they have no effect whatsoever and are absolutely useless. Yeah, haven't I, well, you know what, let's put it even straighter here in a sense. I made a career out of it. Starting from 2014, telling all kinds of people who read me and who read my books, and that it doesn't matter how you sanction Russia, it's useless. It's absolutely useless. Russians are not in, Russia is not the country you can sanction. I mean, you can sanction it, but the problem is, as I already presented to you with Kaya Kallas, most of those people, including the Trump administration, they are critically uneducated. You cannot get normal education, for example, in the Ivy League, especially as it goes to the international relations, applied geopolitics, whatever they study in this political pseudoscience BS, So you have people who are primarily lawyers. They know how to interpret things and how to, well, demagogue them, if we can use the demagoguery as the verb, and that's what they do. They do not anything critical in terms of the governance because they don't know how, and American system of education doesn't explain it. It doesn't tell you how to govern, and yeah, they pretend that they teach you governance, but it's not really governance. Of course, you can get some degrees in taxes, which is important, make no mistake. For example, some sectors in finances are extremely important, like accounting. But for the most part, it's all garbage. It's all about who gets what, once they get to the levels of power, in influence in media or Congress, what have you, and how much they want to corrupt themselves. And that is it. It's systemic flaw. This is not just just one thing doesn't work here and the other one there, and we can fix it. No, you can't. That's the problem. The system ceased to function. And it was coming because of the nature of the system and obviously extremely low academic level of people, all those morons with the PhDs. America and Europe are the top producers of the morons with PhDs. And as the result, you have those people like Mr. Navarro, for example, who has no clue about the economy. And but he's the main, advisor of Trump. The guy Navarro, he never ran 7-Eleven in his life, but here it is, he knows everything about international trade and economics. Of course, he knows nothing about it. And as the result, you have constant reproduction of the imbecility which fails to produce anything. But when we talk about sanctions and why Russians tell, Trump to, well, basically openly, go pound sand, here it is. I will show you this. This is top countries by the resources. You see, it pretty much tells you everything you need to know. Russia is, and again, it's just what has been confirmed. There are some things which are still in the process of the discovery and development, which probably another $75 trillion. But Russia sits top of the world with her resources, from coal to natural gas to oil to timber to rare earth metals to ores to everything. And United States is the second. This is, by the way, which I constantly state, is one of the tickets for the United States out of this mess. Will the United States use this ticket? Because it certainly has resources to allow the development of the country in the future. I don't know. That's the problem. We don't know where it is all going with politically. But as you can see yourself, Russia sits on the top of the world. And again, these are things which are discovered and have been confirmed. But if you go even further, then you have to consider even more, as I already stated. It's, it's the, how to say it, of the world figure of additional 75 trillion. But reality is, when you look attentively at Stockman, for example, the gas and oil field, I don't know, it's probably 75 trillions there on its own in terms of dollar expression, so to speak, of this wealth. And it's colossal. And that is why Russia is the only country in the world which can easily afford a so-called autarky. And guess what? But the problem is that people have to explain to all those critically uneducated people which run their countries, respective countries, into the ground, such as France, for example, that they are paupers, really, with the exception of the United States. The United States is an extremely rich country. It's just completely dysfunctional, but it's definitely rich. And there is still a lot of, real human wealth, like the human capital and technology, which are still there and make the United States the superpower. The rest of it is just useless, and you cannot explain to them that Russians can live completely on their own, in isolation, autarky almost, the only country in the world which is fully ready for autarky, and they will live actually quite well. But of course, today we had in the morning, the Vladimir Putin and leaders of BRICS had again discussion for an hour and a half in the virtual meeting, and they were discussing the setup of the new world order. Essentially, that's what it is. And just to kind of make things really painful for all those chicken hawks and morons with degrees from Stanford or Harvard or what have you, China actually stated that, we don't mind that Russia will have the access to our, finances. And how to say it? China pays way for renminbi fundraising by Russian energy giants. Of course she does. Russia's panda bond sales would be first since 2017 and reflect deepening ties between Moscow and Beijing. What do you expect? I mean, and these two, if you put them together, they dominate the military economic actually outlook of the world. Simple as that. And it's just, only critically uneducated people can believe that somehow Europe really matters that much anymore. China evidently is breaking off some significant, economic ties with Europe, which also wants to sanction China. good luck. I mean, you cannot explain to imbeciles that they are imbeciles because they're imbeciles. It's Dunning-Kruger in a nutshell, So, and just to kind of people ask me to talk about this whole thing. Vladimir Putin, and he visited a number of the industrial facilities in the last 72 hours. And Sergei Chemezov, the chief of this Russian colossus, I mean, gigantic Rostec corporation, he explained to him that, yeah, we are now fully 100% independent in every single element of the aerospace industry, from microchips to engines to systems to what have you. And remember, I showed you that actually Russians were testing already serially produced Sukhoi Superjet, which is completely Russian, from avionics, and don't be confused by the Garmin GPS thing, which, by the way, also catches GLONASS on the in the cabin of the cockpit of the Sukhoi Superjet. It's just for the kind of additional redundancy. Generally, Russians run their systems on the GLONASS, which is global navigational system. And so it was about Superjet, and we know MS-21 is very successful in passing through the tests, through those, necessary steps for certification with the fully Russian systems. And for example, avionics, the cabin, all this, glass cabin and all those things in terms of the control, they are very similar. They are actually pretty much the same for Sukhoi Superjet and MS-21. But many people forget that Russians produce those things. Yeah, this is Tu-214, yet another one. So is now transferred to the Red Wings company airline, and what can I say? We have I already spoke about it. It's 24 ready. Well, not ready. They are hulls ready to be completed for the Sukhoi Superjet. It's the batch, and of course the other hulls are being built apart from this. Then we have the MS-21 with the PD-14 being in the serial production since the last year, and now we have Tu-214. Now they are ramping up production of this, and yeah, Russia is the only country which does it all. No, if anybody wants to tell me that United States is, nobody. I love, for example, wide-body Boeing aircraft. I mean, it's a magnificent aircraft, with the exception, 737 is not wide body, but 777, I love it. I mean, 747 is the masterpiece of the American aeronautical engineering. But even in terms of the engines, as many people correctly point out, even Pratt and Whitney and General Electric, they are outsourcing a lot of parts, for example, to Germany, to United Kingdom, and elsewhere. So they are not fully American. But Russians, they have it. All of it done, all of it without exception, and all of those PD-8, which is finishing the certification with now serially produced Sukhoi Superjet, and PD-14 for MS-21, PS-90A, which are powering the Tu-214s, and then of course we have all kinds of other things like PD-26 being actually now pushed into the production, and PD-35, which should be ready for production by 2030. So yeah, it's all Russian parts, all Russian technologies, and so when you look at this, yep, that's the only country which really does it all. So for many people who will come up, like, for example, very respectable Embraer in Brazil. Yeah, it's a wonderful plane in many respects, and it's obviously produced and built in Brazil, what many people do not understand. There are no Brazilian engines, there are no Brazilian systems in it. It's all Western made. So the same what happened with the Comac 919 of China, which was, and it's not really Chinese aircraft, it is essentially the aircraft made by the Western nations and supplied with all critical systems. That is why, for example, suddenly China and its mass media speak loudly about that. Yeah, the discussion is that Russians will provide PD-14 engines to China. to power the its Comac 919, which of course, what have been sabotaged by the United States on orders of President Trump, which was predicted, I spoke about it for years, that the supply of the Pratt & Whitney engines, which powered it, will be cut off. And it did happen. And then suddenly China has to figure out what to do with its program, which has been actually dead in the water. And that's where Russia comes in with its spectrum of the across the board, all kinds of engines, ranging from the helicopter engines to light motor aircraft like Baikal. Many people don't understand it. IL-114, and this is what Russians do. They create technology completely on their own. And many people, obviously, who are critically uneducated, they do not understand that. You cannot explain it to the average graduate of the Harvard School, whatever, of law, or what social studies, so that what they are facing, they do not have toolkit, they do not have the intellectual capability to wrap their brains around it, as they are not capable of understanding the real warfare. I already stated it many times. I will repeat it again. I doubt that Pentagon even can wrap their brains around what they are witnessing. And, but we'll have to wait and see. But this is the kind of, hodgepodge today which I needed to explain to you guys. And before we go, just let's take a look at this tally. This is the tally for today. As you can see yourself, Russians continue to do what they're doing. Best killing NATO forces, best NATO proxy. And they admit, even Syrskyi admits that another butcher, that, they don't have enough people anymore. And we have also the new video of the Iranian strikes on the, for example, government building in Tel Aviv. As has been stated before, that Israel obviously put the cap, so to speak, censored everything what was coming out of Israel to cover up a massive destruction by the Iranian strikes. And here's one which popped up recently, shows that, how effective, quote unquote, in reality, it's pathetic, the Israeli air and anti-ballistic missile defense is. We know the effectiveness now, 35%. You might as well not have it at all. So, and this is what I wanted to tell you guys today. And as always, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford, please support me on the Patreon or buy me a coffee or two. I want to say. So, have a nice rest of the week. I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye-bye.